Hey everyone, welcome back to Everyday English Pod. One thing we all deal with, no matter what kind of work we do, is how to manage our time effectively.
It's true. Our schedules can get pretty crazy, and it's easy to feel like we're constantly playing catch up.
Right. So today we're going to dive into some really practical strategies for taking control of our schedules and boosting our productivity. We've been looking at a bunch of different conversations from people in various work settings, and there are some really helpful tips we want to share with you.
Absolutely. And the cool thing is, these are tips you can start using right away, whether you're leading a team or just trying to get your own work done more efficiently.
Okay, so one of the first things that jumped out at me from these conversations was this idea of having shorter, more focused team meetings.
Yeah, it seems like everyone's trying to figure out how to make meetings less of a time suck, right?
For sure. But what I found interesting was the connection they made between having shorter meetings and freeing up more time for what they called deep work.
Oh, I like that. Deep work.
Yeah. It's that focused, uninterrupted time when you can really dig into those complex tasks and make some serious progress.
It makes sense, though. I mean, think about it. When you're constantly bouncing from meeting to meeting, it can be hard to find that mental space to really get into that flow state where you're most productive.
Exactly. And these conversations really emphasize how even small reductions in meeting time can add up to significant gains in overall productivity for both individuals and the team as a whole.
And they even talked about how shorter meetings can sometimes encourage people to show up on time and be more prepared. If you know you've only got 30 minutes to cover everything, you're going to make sure you use that time wisely.
Right. And that means having a clear agenda going in and maybe even doing some pre-reading so everyone's on the same page from the start. No more of those rambling hour-long meetings that could have been summed up in an email.
Yeah, that's a pet peeve of mine for sure. And they also made a really good point about making sure you have a quick recap at the end of each meeting, just to make sure everyone's clear on what was decided, who is responsible for what, and what the next steps are.
Oh, that's a good one. It's so easy to walk out of a meeting and immediately forget half of what was discussed.
Totally. And those quick recaps can really help solidify those key takeaways and prevent those frustrating situations where people are working on different versions of the plan.
Now, another thing they talked about, which I thought was really smart, was the idea of building in some buffer time into your schedule.
Out for time.
Yeah, like intentionally leaving some open slots in your day or week to accommodate those unexpected issues or urgent tasks that always seem to pop up.
Oh, I see. You're talking about planning for the inevitable chaos.
Exactly. Because, let's be honest, things rarely go exactly according to plan, right?
So true. And I think a lot of people struggle with this because they feel like leaving empty space in their schedule is somehow unproductive. But in reality, it's the opposite.
Right. Having that flexibility to deal with those urgent requests or unexpected problems without throwing your entire schedule off track is actually a huge productivity booster.
And it ties in really well with that whole idea of figuring out your priority rankings, which was another big theme in these conversations.
Oh, absolutely. If you have a clear sense of what tasks are truly mission critical, you're much better equipped to make those judgment calls about how to use those buffer slots effectively.
Exactly. It's about knowing what absolutely has to get done today versus what can maybe wait until tomorrow or next week.
And that brings us to another really important topic that kept coming up: effective prioritization.
Yeah, I think we've all felt that overwhelm of having a million things on our plate and not knowing where to even start, right?
Oh, for sure. And it's so easy to fall into the trap of just reacting to whatever feels most urgent in the moment, even if those tasks aren't really that important in the grand scheme of things.
So true. And I love the approach they talked about for dealing with conflicting deadlines. It wasn't just about saying this is more important than that. They actually talked about categorizing tasks based on a few key factors.
Like what?
Well, like how urgent a task is, obviously, but also how complex it is and what kind of impact it could have if it's completed successfully or if it's delayed.
Oh, that's interesting. So it's not just about deadlines, but also about the potential consequences of either finishing or not finishing a particular task.
Exactly. Thinking about it that way gives you a much more well-rounded view of what really needs your attention.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Because sometimes a task might seem urgent, but if the consequences of not getting it done right away aren't that significant, maybe it can be shifted a bit.
Right. And they also talked about considering task dependencies, which I thought was really smart. How some tasks are dependent on other tasks being finished first.
Oh, yeah. It's like having to map out a mini project plan just for your own to-do list.
Exactly. And understanding those dependencies can help you prioritize more effectively because you know what tasks are critical for unlocking other tasks.
That's really helpful. Now, they also had some great suggestions for how to promote better prioritization at the team level.
Yeah, they really emphasize the importance of having a clear and transparent system in place so everyone on the team knows what the current priorities are and where their efforts should be focused.
I really like that idea they had about each department creating a list of their top 5 priorities.
Oh, yeah. That's a great way to make sure everyone's on the same page and to avoid those frustrating situations where different teams are unknowingly working at cross purposes.
Totally. And they also talked about the importance of having regular check-in meetings, maybe on a weekly basis, to reassess those priorities and make adjustments as needed.
That's so important because things change so quickly these days. A weekly review allows you to stay agile and make sure your priorities are still aligned with the current goals.
And speaking of staying aligned, they had this brilliant idea of using a simple color-coded dashboard to track progress on key tasks.
Ooh, I like visual tools.
Me too. It's so much easier to spot potential problems early on when you can see at a glance which tasks are on track and which ones might be falling behind.
You can immediately see what needs attention without having to dig through a bunch of spreadsheets or reports.
Exactly. Now, another thing they really stressed was the importance of clear communication, particularly when it comes to urgent issues.
Yeah, they talked about making sure that every single person on the team knows exactly how to communicate an urgent need and that there are no unnecessary barriers in that process.
Right. It's about having a really streamlined escalation process so those critical issues can get addressed quickly and efficiently. And on a similar note, they also talked about the importance of having backup personnel for those truly mission-critical tasks.
No, that's smart.
Yeah. It just makes sense to have someone who can step in if the primary person responsible for that task is suddenly unavailable, whether it's due to illness, vacation, or any other unforeseen circumstance.
That kind of redundancy can really prevent those frustrating project delays.
Absolutely. And they also highlighted the importance of having really clear and open communication about those potential limitations on resources that might affect how priorities are managed.
Transparency is key. Everyone needs to be aware of any constraints that might impact the team's ability to deliver on those key priorities.
And to make sure everyone stays on the same page, they suggested having those short, daily sync-up meetings.
Oh, yeah, like a quick huddle at the start of each day just to confirm the top priorities and make sure everyone's aligned on the plan of attack.
Exactly. It's about staying connected without having to sit through those long, drawn-out meetings.
Efficiency is key.
And speaking of efficiency, they also had a great idea about having each team lead prepare a very brief status summary before those daily sync-ups.
Oh, that's a good one. A quick overview of what's been accomplished, what's currently in progress, and any potential roadblocks that have come up.
Exactly. It just helps to focus those discussions and ensures that everyone's time is used effectively.
It's all about being proactive and intentional with those communications. Now, on a slightly different note, they also touched on the potential benefits of using a priority matrix tool.
A priority matrix.
Yeah, it's a visual tool, like the Eisenhower matrix, for example, that helps you sort your tasks based on their urgency and importance.
Oh, I've seen those. They're really helpful for getting a clear picture of what you should be focusing on at any given time.
Exactly. And they can help you avoid that trap of constantly putting out fires on those low-impact but urgent tasks while neglecting those truly important but maybe not as urgent items.
Right. You can really start to see where your time is best spent. Now, shifting gears a bit, let's talk about workload distribution.
Ah, yes, the never-ending challenge of making sure the workload is balanced across the entire team.
Right, because we've all seen those situations where some people are constantly overloaded while others seem to have a lot of extra capacity. And that can lead to all sorts of problems.
Absolutely. It can lead to burnout for those who are consistently overstretched, resentment from those who feel like they're carrying more than their fair share, and ultimately it can really impact the team's overall productivity.
The discussions we looked at really emphasized the importance of redistributing tasks fairly, taking into account each person's capacity, their unique skills, and their current availability.
It's about finding that sweet spot where everyone feels like they're contributing meaningfully, but no one is consistently overwhelmed.
Right. And I thought it was really interesting how they talk about the value of a occasionally rotating responsibilities, even if
Oh.
it's just for certain tasks.
Oh, yeah. That's a great way to help people develop new skills and broaden their understanding of different aspects of the work. Plus, it can make the team more resilient in the long run because you're not relying on just one person to handle a specific task.
Exactly. It's that whole cross-training concept, which can really pay off in the long run. But of course, to be able to balance the workload effectively, you need to have a good system for tracking what everyone's working on and how much time they're spending on different tasks.
Transparency is key. Having that clear picture of everyone's current commitments makes it much easier to spot those potential imbalances before they turn into bigger problems.
And they also highlighted the importance of having those regular one-on-one check-ins with each team member.
Oh, yeah, those are essential. It's a chance for managers to connect with their team members on a personal level, to see how they're feeling about their workload, and to address any concerns or challenges they might be facing.
Sometimes just having that open and honest conversation can make a huge difference.
Totally. And they also suggested having a shared resource pool where tasks can be easily reassigned if someone needs additional support.
Oh, that's a great idea. It allows for flexibility and ensures that there's always someone available to help out if needed.
It really reinforces that sense of teamwork and support, which can make a big difference in reducing stress and boosting morale.
And speaking of stress, they also talked about the importance of setting realistic deadlines.
Yes. And maybe building in a little buffer time to account for those unexpected hiccups that inevitably occur.
Right. It's all about being realistic about what can be accomplished within a given time frame.
Yeah.
Pushing people to meet unrealistic deadlines just leads to stress and burnout.
Exactly. And they even talked about using a visual workload chart, maybe color-coded by task complexity and estimated completion time.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. It's a great way to get a quick overview of everyone's current workload and to spot any obvious gaps or potential overloads. And if you can integrate that with your project management tool so it's always up to date, even better.
Absolutely. They also made a really good point about having managers regularly review the team's overall workload and trying to balance things out across different teams whenever possible.
That kind of ongoing oversight can really help to prevent those situations where one team is consistently swamped while another team has a lot of downtime.
Right. It's about looking at the bigger picture and using those resources effectively. And finally, they really emphasize the importance of encouraging open and honest communication.
Oh, that's so important. People need to feel comfortable speaking up if they're feeling overwhelmed or if they need additional support.
Exactly. And they suggested that managers could even proactively offer flexible scheduling options during those really busy periods to help alleviate some of the pressure.
Flexibility is key. It's about finding ways to accommodate those peaks and valleys in the workload without burning people out.
Now, in today's digital world, it's probably no surprise that the discussions also focused on leveraging digital tools for scheduling and task management.
Right. I mean, there are so many great apps and platforms out there designed to help us stay organized and productive. But interestingly, it seemed like in some cases, these tools weren't being used as effectively as they could be.
That's so true. People might be using a calendar app and a separate to-do list app and a communication app, but they're not really taking advantage of the power of having all of those things integrated into one unified system.
Exactly. And the conversations really emphasize the potential benefits of switching to a more comprehensive platform that brings all of those essential functions together in one place.
Yeah, it just eliminates so much of that mental juggling and reduces the risk of things slipping through the cracks. No more double-checking multiple calendars or trying to remember which app you use to jot down that important note.
Plus, having everyone's schedules and tasks visible in one central location really promotes transparency and accountability.
Absolutely. And the beauty of these integrated platforms is that they often come with some really helpful features, like automated reminders for deadlines.
Ah, those are lifesavers.
Yeah.
Especially when you're juggling a million different deadlines, those automatic reminders can really help make sure nothing gets overlooked.
They also talked about looking for platforms that have built-in analytics features, so you can actually see data about your team's productivity and identify any bottlenecks in your workflow.
Having those data-driven insights is so valuable for making informed decisions about how to improve your processes.
And with so many people working remotely these days, it's absolutely crucial to have a tool that works seamlessly across all your devices.
Cross-platform compatibility is a must-have.
Definitely. They also talk about some other cool features to look for, like Gantt charts for visualizing project timelines, shared boards for team collaboration, and built-in instant messaging for quick communication.
Having all of those functions integrated into one platform just makes everything so much smoother.
Oh, and they really emphasize the importance of choosing a platform that integrates with the apps you're already using.
Oh, for sure. You don't want to end up having to manually transfer data back and forth between different systems. That's just a recipe for errors and frustration.
And for visual learners like me, they also mentioned looking for systems that use color-coded tags or labels to categorize different tasks.
Visual organization can be so helpful.
Totally. It just makes it easier to quickly scan your to-do list and see what needs to be tackled first. And before you commit to any particular platform, they recommended taking advantage of those free trials that many companies offer.
That's a great idea. It gives you a chance to really test out the interface and make sure it's a good fit for your team's needs and preferences.
Exactly. And they really emphasize the importance of making a decision about which tool to use and then fully committing to it. Because trying to manage everything manually with spreadsheets and separate calendars just leads to so many problems.
Oh, I can only imagine the chaos.
Right. So the takeaway there is to make sure you budget for a good, robust digital solution and then invest the time to properly train your team on how to use it effectively.
And for those who are on the go, a mobile-friendly interface is essential.
Absolutely. And they even suggested setting up a pilot group to test out the tool before rolling it out to the entire organization.
That's a smart move. It allows you to identify any potential issues and make any necessary adjustments before everyone's using it. Now, let's talk about a challenge that I think we can all relate to. Procrastination.
Oh, yeah. We've all been there. Those tasks that just sit on our to-do list, staring at us. But for some reason, we just can't seem to get started on them.
The discussions we looked at really focused on how to overcome procrastination, even when we don't realize we're doing it. And they talked about some really common reasons why we procrastinate.
Like what?
Well, sometimes it's because a task just feels so overwhelming. We look at it and we feel paralyzed because we don't even know where to begin.
Oh, I totally get that. I've definitely felt that way before.
Right. And another common reason is simply not having a clear sense of priorities. We might have a ton of things on our to-do list, but we're not really sure which ones are actually the most important to tackle first.
And that indecision can really lead to procrastination.
Absolutely. So one of the key strategies they emphasize for overcoming procrastination is breaking those big, daunting tasks down into smaller, more manageable steps.
Oh, yeah. That's a classic productivity tip. And for good reason. It just makes things feel so much less overwhelming.
Totally. And they also suggested setting interim deadlines for each of those smaller steps.
That's a great idea. It gives you those mini milestones to work towards, which can help you stay motivated.
Exactly. And they also talked about the power of time blocking.
Time blocking.
Yeah, it's the idea of actually scheduling dedicated blocks of time in your day, specifically to work on those high priority tasks.
Oh, I see. So you're essentially reserving that time in your calendar and protecting it from other distractions or interruptions.
Exactly. It's about creating that focused space in your day to really get things done.
I like that. They also mentioned accountability partnerships, which I thought was an interesting idea.
Oh, yeah. It's about teaming up with a colleague or a friend and checking in with each other regularly on your progress toward their goals.
Sometimes, just knowing that someone else is expecting you to get something done can be a powerful motivator.
Totally. And they also had some great advice about tackling those difficult or less appealing tasks early in the day when your energy levels are typically higher.
Oh, that's a good one. I definitely find that I'm much more productive in the mornings.
Me too. And if you can get those challenging tasks out of the way early on, it just sets you up for a more successful and less stressful day.
Right. They also talked about the importance of minimizing digital distractions.
Oh, that's a big one in today's world.
It is. They suggested turning off those non-essential notifications, silencing your phone, and maybe even scheduling specific times in your day to check emails rather than constantly being bombarded by them.
That's good advice. It's so easy to get sucked into those digital rabbit holes and lose hours of productivity without even realizing it.
And they even mentioned the Pomodoro technique, which is a really popular time management method.
Yeah, I've heard of that. It's about working in focused intervals, typically 25 minutes of work followed by a 5-minute break.
Exactly. And those short breaks can really help you maintain your concentration and prevent mental fatigue.
It's about working smarter, not harder.
Right. They also talked about the importance of managers checking in with their team members regularly to see if there are any underlying obstacles that might be contributing to procrastination.
sometimes it's not just a matter of willpower. There might be some deeper issue that needs to be addressed.
Exactly. And they emphasize the importance of making sure that the objectives for each task are crystal clear.
Oh, that's so important. If people aren't sure exactly what they're supposed to be doing, it's only natural that they're going to put it off.
And they suggested scheduling regular reflection sessions where you take some time to step back and evaluate your progress, adjust your priorities as needed, and just generally reassess your approach.
Those reflective moments are so valuable. They allow you to make those necessary course corrections and prevent you from getting too bogged down in the day-to-day grind.
Right. And finally, they emphasize the importance of creating a supportive work environment where people feel comfortable asking for help.
Totally. It's about fostering a culture where people don't feel ashamed or embarrassed to admit when they're struggling with something.
Exactly. And they even suggested offering training on effective planning and anti-procrastination techniques to give everyone some practical tools to help them manage their time and their tasks more effectively.
Now let's move on to another really important topic, delegation.
Ah, yes. The art of letting go.
Right. The discussions we looked at really highlighted how important it is for team leaders to delegate tasks effectively.
Because too often, leaders end up trying to do everything themselves, which can lead to burnout and prevent others from developing their skills and taking on more responsibility.
Exactly. Effective delegation benefits everyone involved. It frees up the leader's time and energy to focus on those higher-level strategic tasks, while at the same time giving other team members opportunities to grow and develop their skills.
It's a win-win. But of course, there's an art to delegation.
Oh, absolutely. It's not just about randomly tossing tasks at people. The discussions really emphasize the importance of being strategic about which tasks are delegated and making sure those tasks are assigned to the right people based on their skills and experience.
Right. And they also talked about the importance of clearly defining the authority levels for each delegated task.
Oh, that's crucial. The person who's been assigned the task needs to have the authority to make decisions about how to best accomplish it without having to constantly check in with their manager.
That kind of autonomy can really empower people and streamline the workflow.
Totally. And they also stress the importance of establishing clear protocols for collaboration, particularly for those projects that involve multiple departments working together.
Oh, yeah. It's about preventing those misunderstandings and miscommunications that can arise when people are working on different aspects of a project.
Exactly. Having those well-defined procedures can really smooth out the process.
And having regular cross-team check-ins is essential for making sure everyone stays aligned on timelines and deliverables.
Those regular touch points can help identify potential roadblocks early on and prevent those last-minute scrambles to get things done. And when you do delegate a task, it's important to be transparent about who's responsible for what.
Transparency is key.
It is. That way, everyone knows who to go to if they have questions or need updates on progress.
Right. And they also talked about the importance of training managers on how to give effective feedback on those delegated tasks.
Oh, feedback is so important for growth and development.
It is. And it's about providing that feedback in a way that's constructive and helpful rather than critical or discouraging.
Exactly. They also suggested encouraging the use of those collaborative digital tools we talked about earlier.
Oh, yeah. Those tools can be so helpful for sharing files, providing real-time updates, and just generally keeping everyone on the same page.
Definitely. And they also talked about fostering a work culture where asking questions is not only allowed, but encouraged.
Oh, that's so important. People need to feel comfortable seeking clarification without feeling like they're bothering anyone.
Totally. And the idea of occasionally rotating leadership roles on smaller projects came up as well.
Oh, I like that. It gives people a chance to try out different roles and develop their leadership skills.
Exactly. And it can also help to break down those silos that sometimes form between different teams or departments.
They also talked about setting up a shared knowledge-sharing database where people can easily access best practices and learn from past experiences.
Oh, that's a great idea. It's about creating that central repository of valuable knowledge that everyone can benefit from.
Definitely. And they suggested having those regular forums where different departments can showcase their achievements and discuss the challenges they're facing.
That kind of cross-departmental sharing can be so valuable. It helps to build connections and foster a more collaborative work environment.
Absolutely. It's all about creating those feedback loops, celebrating successes, and continuously learning and improving together. Now let's talk about a tool that can be incredibly helpful for staying on top of those everyday tasks.
Just structure.
Checklists.
Ah, checklists. They might seem simple, but they can be surprisingly effective.
The discussions we looked at really emphasized how standardized checklists can help to ensure that those routine but essential tasks don't get overlooked.
It's about building in those safety nets to prevent things from slipping through the cracks.
Exactly. And they talked about how important it is to design those checklists thoughtfully, making sure they're concise and clearly highlight the key activities that need to be completed.
Right. You don't want those checklists to be so long and overwhelming that people just tune them out.
Definitely. And they suggested including the priority level for each task and maybe even an estimate of how long each task should take.
Well, that's smart. It helps people allocate their time effectively.
Exactly. And they talked about the benefits of using those digital checklist apps that can send you reminders and track your progress in real time.
Oh, those can be so helpful. It's so much easier than trying to manage everything with pen and paper.
Definitely. And they also talked about the benefits of color coding those checklist items to indicate their urgency or complexity.
Visual cues are always helpful.
Totally. It just makes it easier to see at a glance what needs your immediate attention.
They also suggested incorporating those checklists into your daily stand-up meetings.
Oh, yeah. That's a great way to quickly verify that things are getting done and to address any roadblocks that might have come up.
It's about keeping everyone on the same page and maintaining that accountability.
Definitely. And they made a good point about making a clear distinction between those recurring daily tasks and any special one-off assignments that might come up.
Right. It's about making sure those unique tasks don't get lost in the shuffle of those everyday routines.
And tracking those completion rates can be really insightful. It can help you spot any patterns of delay or identify any individuals who might need additional support.
Definitely. It's about using those data points to continuously improve your processes.
They also talked about using standardized naming conventions for your checklists to avoid confusion, especially if multiple teams are using them.
Oh, consistency is key.
It is, and they suggested adding relevant links or documents directly to each task on the checklist.
Oh, that's so smart. It just makes everything so much more accessible and efficient.
Exactly. And they even talked about encouraging people to add a brief note if they postpone a task, explaining why they had to do so.
Transparency is so important for building trust and understanding within the team.
Totally. And finally, they emphasize the importance of those regular checklist audits.
Oh, yeah. It's about taking a step back and evaluating how well those checklists are working, identifying any recurring problems or inefficiencies, and making adjustments as needed.
It's that continuous improvement mindset again. Now let's talk about another really important aspect of effective time management, focusing on those high-value tasks.
Yes. It's so easy to get caught up in the whirlwind of those smaller, less important tasks and lose sight of those activities that really move the needle.
The discussions we looked at really highlighted how crucial it is to be intentional about how we're spending our time and energy.
They talked about the importance of first defining what high value actually means for your specific organization.
Oh, yeah. That's a great point. It's about identifying those tasks that directly contribute to profitability, improve customer satisfaction, or drive innovation.
Exactly. Once you have a clear understanding of what those high-value tasks are, it becomes much easier to prioritize them effectively.
And they talked about the importance of allocating your prime working hours, those times of day when you're feeling most focused and energized to those crucial tasks.
Oh, that's a great tip. If you know you're most productive in the mornings, for example, that's when you should be tackling those high-impact projects.
Save those less demanding tasks for those times when you might be feeling a bit more drained.
Exactly. And they also talked about being proactive about reducing the amount of time you spend on those low-impact activities.
Like responding to those non-essential emails or doing those repetitive administrative tasks.
Exactly. Those tasks can really eat up your time and mental energy. So look for ways to automate those processes or delegate them to someone else whenever possible.
They also suggested scheduling regular brainstorming sessions, specifically focused on generating those high-value creative solutions.
Oh, I love that. It's about making time for those innovative ideas to emerge.
And they talked about actually measuring the return on the time you invest in different tasks.
Oh, yeah. Data is so powerful. By tracking how much time you spend on different activities and then comparing that to the results you achieve, you can really start to see where your efforts are having the biggest impact.
It's about working smarter, not harder.
Exactly. They also emphasize the importance of limiting those unproductive meetings.
Oh, yeah. We've all been in those meetings. That could have been an email.
Right. And they suggested consciously redirecting that, save time to those high-impact tasks instead.
They also talked about the benefits of simply labeling your tasks by their level of impact so you can quickly see which ones need to be prioritized.
Visual cues are always helpful.
Totally. And they suggested incorporating a weekly reflection period into your routine where you specifically review whether you spent your time focusing on those critical objectives.
Those moments of reflection are so important for staying on track and making those necessary adjustments.
Definitely. They also talked about the importance of actively identifying and eliminating any redundant processes within your workflow.
Oh, yeah. Streamlining your processes can free up so much time and energy.
It can. They also suggested providing training sessions on different prioritization techniques to help everyone on the team learn how to effectively identify those high-impact tasks.
Knowledge is power.
It is. And they encouraged regularly seeking feedback from stakeholders to make sure you're aligned on what outcomes are truly considered valuable.
That's so important for staying focused on the right things.
And finally, they talked about the power of using data analytics tools to identify patterns of success and to guide your efforts towards those areas that have a proven track record of delivering results.
It's all about being strategic and data-driven in your approach. Now, we've talked a lot about day-to-day productivity and time management, but the discussions we looked at also touched on the importance of having a clear and well-defined goal-setting process.
Oh, yeah. Goals are essential for giving us direction and motivation.
Absolutely. But the problem is, a lot of people set goals that are vague or unrealistic.
Right, like I want to be more successful or I want to make more money. Those are great aspirations, but they're not really actionable goals.
Exactly. And that's why the discussions really emphasized the importance of using the SMART framework for goal setting.
SMART goals?
Yeah. It stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound.
Oh, right. That's a classic goal-setting framework.
It is. And
It
it's
is.
so effective because it forces you to really think through your goals and make sure they're well-defined and achievable.
They also talked about the importance of breaking those larger, long-term goals down into smaller, more manageable milestones.
Oh, that's so important. It just makes things feel much less daunting.
Right. And they emphasize the importance of celebrating those small wins along the way.
Celebrating those wins is so important for maintaining motivation and momentum.
Definitely. They also talked about the importance of having each department within the organization clearly define their quarterly objectives and making sure those objectives are aligned with the overall corporate vision.
That alignment is so crucial. It ensures that everyone is working together towards the same overarching goals.
They also suggested setting up regular monthly progress review meetings to track progress, identify any potential roadblocks, and make any necessary adjustments to timelines or resources.
It's about staying proactive and making those course corrections as needed.
And they talked about the importance of tracking those key performance indicators, those KPIs, to measure progress towards those goals.
Data's